We are live. This is Caesar Walker of the War Report. That is the final. Auburn goes down 14-28 to Alabama. You are watching the post game. Joining me is a face you guys haven't seen a lot of, but he's gracious enough to give us some of his time. B. Will is joining us. B. Will, how are you, sir? Give me your thoughts on what you saw today.
It's basketball season.
That it is.
Basketball season.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Season.
It's been basketball season, actually.
It has been. You know how the Pokemon can only talk by saying their name?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to do, but just basketball season. All my football analysis, basketball season. Basketball season. Basketball season. I don't think I've been more ready for Auburn season to end. Maybe 2012. We are not bowl eligible, and it's not like it was the tumultuous season that 2022 was, where we changed coaches in the middle of the season. A Auburn legend turned into the head coach when he hadn't even been a coordinator, and players, we got no good options at quarterback that were healthy. Like it was a wild season, and we won 5 games. And we won 5 games this year. We won 5 games. Florida, we were laughing at how terrible their schedule was going to be, and they won more games than us. Florida, the University of Florida, they won more games than us.
Vanderbilt won more games.
Vanderbilt won more games than us. We saw it wasn't a surprise with Diego Pavia this year. No surprise. Knew exactly what he was and where he was coming from. Still got us. Walked us down. It has been a frustrating season because everything about this season that went wrong, you could see it coming from a mile away. And our staff stood pat in the offseason with what was probably the most important piece, the one piece that they did overhaul, and that was quarterback. I don't want to rail too much on Peyton Thorne at this point because he is what he is, and we knew what he was after last year. Maybe Hugh Freeze wasn't convinced. You know what I mean? Maybe he thought something could be different this year, but I thought it was pretty evident that this is what he was. And it was kind of fitting. He just said it. Ken is saying fitting in with the Thorne pick. That's the last thing I thought. Like that was the end of the game. Hence the end of the 5-7 season. Hence the end of Thorne's career. And it was I don't want to say poetic because it didn't really feel good to see it happen, but yeah, that has been the story of the season, and I am glad that this particular season, with all of its woes, is over.
We're about to bring in Dylan Lark of the College Loop, who's been with us throughout the day, pregame and half. The look says it all. Different hat. You even switched hats with Auburn upside down. Wow, got it. It's basketball season.
Basketball season.
Basketball season.
Basketball season.
Yeah, second half felt the same. You just have a touchdown to go with it. A lot of the same. I hate that Jarquez Hunter got only 3 carries in the second half. You put out a gimmick play, which honestly, I'm not opposed to the gimmick play if it would have been ran correctly. But I think had the receiver been on Jarquez's side, it would have been a lot easier of a play to make. I don't think you send your running back out there to throw the football and then he has to throw a cross the field ball down 30 yards down the field. I think that play can work.
Only one receiver downfield.
Only one receiver. You need to send one of those blockers up so he has another guy, or I don't know. It was dumb, but I think it could have worked had it been drawn okayly, but it wasn't.
No.
It was just an inexcusable pass that happened.
No, I mean, the only thing we seem to trick is ourselves by thinking those plays can work. I don't think a trick play has worked all season. I don't think one has worked all season, and we called it at the most inopportune time. I will say this before I give B the floor again. One thing that I do expect to see that's different, we need to go ahead and end this play calling by committee. This needs to die this season. This needs to go in the tank. We need to kill that. And again, I don't even know what the issue is there or who's really calling plays. There needs to be something different about that. I'm over that. I'm over that. Just those types of play calls are just, it's bipolar. You got rhythm, you call something like that. Again, one receiver downfield to your running back who hasn't even thrown passes all year. That's got to go. That has to go. It's frustrating to see Jarquez, and Dylan already alluded to it, has 13 carries. We talked about him needing at least 25. Worst case, at least 20. Jarquez Hunter ends the game with 13 carries in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Jarquez in his final regular season game only getting 13 carries?
It's his final game, remember? It's not just final regular season. There's no bowl game for him. So that was it. That was his last hoorah. That was the last time we were going to see Jarquez Hunter in an Auburn uniform. And part of it was we were out of our ability to manage that game with just the run because we were down 8 points. But let's be honest, for our offense, it might as well have been like 20 points. They come out and they score at the start of the third quarter, and you're thinking, okay, well, now it really is a very wide deficit. For this team, 21-6 is, for the offense that we put out, what we failed to be able to do. It was almost the death knell. Our defense kept us in the game with some turnovers. However, you lose part of your ability to control the game, to control the clock with the run when you get behind like that. I was, to your point about the play calling, philosophically, a decision was made that we weren't going to run every which way on them by default. Okay, the RPO is what used to that's Hugh Freeze's bread and butter, right? The RPO. You don't know if I'm going to pass it here, throw this slant, run it myself, hand it off. Like you don't know what's going to happen. But if your quarterback can't execute it, then what you're down to is a very vanilla offense. That doesn't have a lot of levers you can pull to pick up big yardage quickly or at all. So what we've seen the last 3 weeks as the offense has actually been more under control is less throws downfield because Peyton Thorne can't make them. Unless the wide receiver is wide open, which a few times over the last 3 weeks, we have had wide receivers get wide open.
Yeah.
Like KLS in the end zone. Was that the first quarter where Thorne just missed him? The first or second quarter. I can't remember which one. The trouble here is that if you're not going to run your RPO, unless you're going to fully commit to something like Army offense, where you got 2 running backs on the field, we're pitching and throwing every which way. If you're not going to do that, which seemed to be pretty effective against Bama last week against Oklahoma, they couldn't stop the run to save their lives. I thought that we would come in with an effort to run the ball, not just in the predictable ways, which we did, but also in some new ways that we hadn't put on film yet. Keep them off balance. Don't come out throwing the ball. I don't want them to get the possession of the ball. I want to do some new things. I want to possess the ball. I want to run an 8-minute drive off the clock. And I want to keep them from having an opportunity because even if Oklahoma was able to stifle them like that, they're still an explosive offense. Like Jalen Milroe may be accident prone, turnover prone, but he's still very talented. The wide receivers are still very talented. They have every ability to put up points quickly. To neutralize that ability, you hold the ball. I don't know why we didn't run the ball almost exclusively after the first couple of drives where we got down in the red zone. Like, new ways. But, again, I do understand somewhat. If you don't have supreme trust in your quarterback to make the right reads, even on the read option, if you're going to give it, and Thorne made the right one on quite a few of those tonight. I was like, okay, that was the right one. One of the later ones in the drive in the third, fourth quarter, he did make the right one, and we ended up paying for it. But he made the right read more often than he didn't in this game. And I thought that was really going to be our chance to take full control of this game, was to come out early, run them down early, get their defense tired, put a lot of plays on them, and then start to pay over the top once you see those one-on-ones pop up. And we got Cam Coleman, we got KLS, and they were going to ball out. And I still feel like they play good games for what their role was in this, but we didn't see more Jarquez because the lead was too big. Really, is what it is. I think we should have thrown everything in the kitchen sink as far as the run game goes at them in the first 3 quarters, and then you start taking some risk later as that's all you've been doing all game, or mostly what you've been doing. But you know what? To your point, C, I was about to disagree with you about play calling. I don't know if the play calling is the problem, but the play philosophy is the problem. What do we think we can do against this team? When do we want to try to do it? And when do you press that button to say, all right, now let's roll the dice a little bit? I think that was incorrect for this game. But ultimately, I don't think anybody is too surprised at the outcome, honestly.
Yeah, it's just the missed opportunities. Again, there are certain things that I think, to your point, did work early in the game, but once the game got away from Auburn, it was just grasping for straws offensively.
Yeah.
The opportunities in the red zone coupled with 3 turnovers, your defense doesn't turn people over a lot, and they gave you 3 turnovers.
4.
Talking about the first half. In the first half. In the first half, you got 3 turnovers, missed field goal. Obviously, field goal was going to be up and down. He made more than he missed, but you left at least 10 points, which would have had you the lead going into halftime had you took advantage of those opportunities. Missed field goal, missed KLS in the end zone, running scot-free wide open. It just seems like after that, Auburn had no answer. And Auburn comes out, second half, gets punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
Which is something I was hoping not to see, because Dylan, we talked about the halftime show. If Auburn's going to win this game, they have to come out and get a stop on Alabama. Alabama scores on their first 2 drives of the second half, pretty much putting the game away, essentially. Auburn never could recover or even begin to flirt, but we talked about the whole trick play. We've addressed it already. What went wrong, even defensively, Dylan, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, you didn't stop them on third down. Bama was 12 of 18 on third down. You didn't adjust for Milroe. He had himself a game despite everything that happened, throughout the week with the press. Milroe had 104 yards on the ground, 6.1 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. I just don't think this defense was quite prepared for someone other than Ryan Williams getting the ball. Bernard had himself a career game, 7 catches off 10 targets, had 111 yards. They kept the air attack out of the end zone, but you didn't keep the running backs out. Jam Miller had 84 yards on the ground off 28 carries. I think you adjusted for the wrong things, and I think you saw Marcel Reed last week. You found a way to stop him, and I think Marcel Reed's going to go down as a better quarterback overall than Jalen Milroe will be. But you adjusted for the wrong parts of what you saw with Marcel Reed, because you stopped the down the field passing, but you didn't adjust for the quick passes, the quick outs, and Milroe was able to find a guy, and the defense got stuck in zone.
They went to their tight ends a lot in this game.
Yeah,
that was an adjustment that Bama did a lot of. They began to find the big guys and then throw for the tight ends. You saw them release off their blocks, running wide open. They began to adjust, and that was some things that Bama did to kind of take advantage of what Auburn was doing, because, to your point, Dylan, they were taking away a lot of the deep threats there, which limited a lot of what Ryan Williams could do. Again, he only had 53 yards. I think he had a facsimile saying that would limit him under his average. Auburn did, but again, you didn't account for guys like Bernard having an amazing day. Disappointing to see Jalen Milroe average 6 yards a carry. Also going over the 100-yard mark in this game. 3 touchdowns rushing wise. He controlled the game with his legs. That's something that Auburn did not need to happen defensively to give yourself a chance. at least to put up a heroic effort to keep the offense within striking distance. Jalen had a game, and you got to give him credit for that. An exceptional athlete. He showed up, did what he was supposed to do. And again, this is the most success any QB has had against Auburn's defense this season with his legs. So credit to Jalen Milroe. Let's get to some of you guys' comments. Mike Davis says Hugh Freeze coached himself out of this game. There's no reason or excuse for that trick play when your offense and team has all the momentum with 12 minutes left. Absolutely the worst call of the year. Definitely not a good call. Did not agree with it when it unfolded.
Yeah.
Kenneth with the $5 super chat. He says fitting ending. I think you pulled that one up earlier, B. Will. Robert with the super chat says Coach Hugh Freeze is 0-2 versus Bama, 0-2 versus Georgia. 2 losing seasons, 0 bowl wins. Please explain what has Coach Hugh Freeze accomplished to earn a third season. Last AU head coach to start 0-2 against Bama, Doug Barfield in the 70s.
Yeah, I don't. You can't really question what he's done to earn a third season. What he's done is he signed a contract that says he gets.
That's pretty much how he earned it. Yeah.
Yeah. You sign that paper, and it takes pretty much an act of Congress, or I guess in college terms, the board of trustees, to get you out of there. And that's what it took for Harsin to get out of there. It was a lot of drama and it was a lot of turmoil, and I think we suffered for it as a program and our reputation, our visibility. And you can't do that again. So you have to just ride with it. People will try to say that, oh, well, look, things got slightly better the last month in the season. Yeah, slightly better from terrible. So no, I don't. It's not encouraging that 5-7 is supposed to have you feeling like, okay, next year is going to be the year though. Like, you don't feel that watching this team this year. The defense gave you that feeling. All right, some of the wide receivers have given us that feeling, but it's a complete question mark what quarterback can be or would be, because you stuck with the guy who was bad, and then you stuck with him when you could have been getting a look at some other guys. So even if we were going to be a 4-win, 5-win team, we still know nothing about what's coming out of the bullpen. And that question will now haunt us into the offseason, because anybody who is a qualified transfer portal QB will go, I don't know if you know what you're doing, buddy. They will question now Hugh Freeze's reputation as an offensive mind, as an offensive, I don't want to say guru, because I don't know if anybody's a guru these days, but that's the damage that's been done here. It's not just you lost games. It's that you lost games and you gave people a reason to doubt that you know what the hell you're doing. So the next quarterback that is qualified, the next Cam Ward that's out there and that is actually a good quarterback, a plug and play. I'm an adult. I need 1 year, maybe maybe 2 years in order to show what I can do at the NFL, and I want to play top competition. That's the guy that we would need if you aren't going to play a young guy. And now, how confident would you be in Hugh Freeze? Would you put your career, your NFL prospects in the hands of Hugh Freeze after what you've seen the last 2 years? I wouldn't. And that's why year 3 gets even dicier than it would have been if we played young guys and had a bad year, but we got to see what they had. This is really dicey now. He's going to get year 3 because we can't take the damage of throwing another coach away before his contract is up, but it's going to look really dicey in the offseason now.
Dylan, your thoughts, man? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that recruiting really helps him out a lot here. He's not going to get fired because he's bringing in a top 5 class. And there's more hope involved in that. I mean, I can bug a little bit about this because I think this recruiting class coming in is going to be a lot of X factors involved. I've gone on to say that Malik Autry is the top player out of this class. I think he's going to be just as good as what we saw from Malik Blockton. And yeah, recruiting has really saved him a lot. The losses this year, last year are embarrassing. You can't lose to New Mexico State. You lost to Cal off of 4 turnovers. And a lot of other issues that went along with this, but you're not going to fire him after this year. Next year, if the same issues are, I would say if you get whooped by Georgia at home next year, I think that could be the game where it happens, and that's pretty early on in the year. You can't have the same issues happening. This could be just like Scott Frost at Nebraska a few years back. If things aren't fixed and we're still dealing with the same issues 2.5 years in, might be time to cut ties.
I think the buyout ends after year 3 for Hugh Freeze. So obviously, if you don't want to owe 2 coaches money, you want to hang on to him for another year, get him to bring in this recruiting class for 2025 and see what he does in the portal in terms of bringing in a new QB and other talent to put around that QB on offense. I just don't know if we're a QB away. That's the concern on offense. I don't know if we're a QB away per se, because there's certain issues that I've seen offensively with this team, gentlemen, that had nothing to do with Peyton Thorne.
Roster wise, I'd say quarterback away, but
roster wise, sure, but I've seen
fixed.
Again. We talked about it. We have coached ourselves out of some games, plural, this year, and I think Auburn can be better with a better quarterback. Don't get me wrong; they can be better, but I'm concerned with how we manage the clock at times, clock management at the end of halves. Some of how we're handling our red zone offense. Again, maybe a really talented QB can overcome some of that. But there has been times offensively, gentlemen, we just did not have a clue what to do offensively. And I don't know if one kid coming from another school changes that in some respects, depending on who we're lined up against in key games. It's a lot to ask. Again, I'm concerned about some of the issues that we have are still systemic as it pertains to this coaching staff. And I'm wondering what happens off season, because I'm curious, gentlemen, do you think, even though we're talking about Hugh Freeze staying, does that offensive staff stay intact?
I think it does. And the only reason I think it does is because, number one, Hugh Freeze is the head coach. He is he is the brain of the offensive staff. If he's most comfortable with Derek Nix, Kent Austin, and Marcus Davis, if he likes these guys and he's going to keep them, okay. So because it's ultimately his decision, that's why he's getting paid the money, and that's why he has to wear all these losses we've had this year. So I don't think the offensive staff changes, but I saw a couple people make the note in I think it was Big Gap. Hey, the play calling would work if it wasn't for the quarterback. I still think that's what you have to figure out. The biggest failure of Hugh Freeze year 1 and 2 is you picked the wrong guy. You picked the wrong guy the first time. You doubled down on him a second time. And then the third time you benched him and you brought him back as if he was the answer. I don't know what this looks like if you get the guy who actually can run your system, not you just guessing on the short period of the signing portal window. Actually get the guy you think is good and ends up being that good, and then we can see what you are as a play caller. He's tried his best to salvage an offense out of the pieces that he had, but he never had the pieces that I think he wanted. I think if Hugh Freeze, if you gave him a shot of honesty serum and sat him down and said, hey, was Peyton Thorne good? He'd be like, no, he wasn't good. He can't say that out loud. He got the closest he got to saying it was after the Maryland game last year when he got asked if that was he sure? He was like, well, I don't know now. Now it's going to be open competition. And he was lying. But you have to give him. He has to give himself an opportunity to prove what he can do with offense. You can't do that with the biggest, most important piece of the offense being a bad pick. I don't think it's fair to judge him on his offensive acumen. I think it's fair to judge him on his eye for talent, on his evaluation, and the decision to stick with it. All of those decisions can be, I think, fairly looked on negatively. You're supposed to know what you need. You got the wrong piece.
They're making apart from what anything a QB does on the field.
Right.
That's what I'm concerned about, B.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
That's what I'm concerned about.
I'm with you on that.
Okay. Yeah. Again, if a QB fixes that and all of a sudden your confidence is back because you like your QB, okay, fine. I'm just saying, as someone who watches Auburn, I need to see evidence of not only you getting and evaluating and finding a QB who fits your system, but all of a sudden you realize you're starting to make decisions that improve your room, improve your QBs, improve the offense. That's what I wanted to see. Let's get back to some of you guys' comments.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Heavy says Hunter scoring 2-point and throwing an interception was not on my bingo card. Wasn't on mine either today.
I know,
Heavy.
right? Yeah.
Wasn't on mine either. Very disappointing. TJ Lou comes back and says, I'm glad this is over with. Y'all think Hugh simplifying the playbook hurt us in this game at the end, besides Peyton Thorne's awareness? Seems like bad plays also.
Simplified playbook is kind of what we had to do because you can't do everything you want to do. With again, the quarterback was kind of the bottleneck here.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. I think the alternative to a simplified offense that's very predictable and kind of vanilla is you take a lot of risk and you turn the ball over, which we had seen that other side, right? That was our first half of the season.
Times. When it
Right.
worked, it worked amazingly, but when it failed equally as amazing.
Yeah, and we knew we couldn't come into this game away at somebody else's stadium against a good team and take big risk and turn the ball over. Then it's night early. We had a chance there in the third quarter. It was a double-digit deficit, but we had the ball. We were driving down 14. Like, that's the position you want to be in. But yeah, it's too risky to go balls to the wall with a quarterback that you can't trust. It just is.
Yeah. Mr. Gibson says Freeze is just Malzahn by another name. We need to get better, and we'll get better. Thoughts, Dylan?
By year 2 of the Malzahn era, we had an SEC championship and a national championship appearance to win over Alabama and Georgia.
In fairness, Gus inherited a lot of talent when he took the head coaching job. A lot of talent.
He did.
Yeah, but he did that with a defensive back at quarterback, though.
Oh, great
sure.
defensive back at quarterback.
He did. That was an amazing offensive line he had, though. Amazing
line. And Gus realized the talent he had with Trey Mason and Cameron Artis-Payne the next year.
But he recruited. I mean, those kids
recruited those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
he didn't take the ball away from him.
Yeah, it's a little different in that. Like, I understand the comparison, but Malzahn, that was a beautiful situation Gus walked into. He knew those kids. Those kids knew him. He recruited those guys. He had some talent on that offensive. He had something to work with.
Yeah.
What was the record Auburn had whenever the year before Hugh first got hired?
We were 5-7.
5-7. Mm-hmm. Year before that, year before Gus was 3-9.
6. The year before, Gus's last year, we were 5-5 or 6-4.
3-9.
We're 3-9.
Gus was hired, not Gus's last year. Okay, yeah.
3-9.
Yeah.
3-9. Mm-hmm. And people mentioning Jay Prosh too. Again, he has some guys.
He has some guys. Jay Prosh.
He has some guys on that team. Let's be clear on that. Appreciate the super chat, Mr. Gibson. Robert Guy says Hugh Freeze is a terrible coach. Change my mind. I'm not trying to change your mind, Robert.
He's done nothing to change your mind.
Yeah, I'm not. We can't really. Yeah, I mean, Hugh has to change your mind. that's who has to change your mind at this point. TJ Lou, appreciate the super chat. TJ Lou says to not take advantage of 4 turnovers. Shaking my head.
That was pretty wild. Like we were we were down 28-14 with a +3 turnover differential. Like the turnover differential decides games. This is like we don't turn them over.
It's decided our games this year.
It has. Like we weren't like -5 to Cal or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
and that made the game.
Like that.
Like this to be down 14 when you're up +3 in the turnover margin.
Wow,
that's really bad. That's awful.
That's four turnovers just to get 6 points off of those.
Yeah, that's wild work. Darius Lee says, so glad the season is over. Thorne is mid. What was that play call after the turnover? Auburn beat Auburn once again. Hopefully 2025 is better. Yeah. What season is it, Bu?
Basketball season. That's what season it is. It's basketball season.
Keep your head up, Darius. Keep your head up. It was Smith here with the 7. Says, going to see Peyton Thorne moonlight bartending at Applebee's next year. We lose more than 3 next year. Hugh Freeze will be right next. Working at Applebee's, my dude. I'm curious to see. Obviously, Hugh Freeze goes into next season. I mean, obviously, there are going to be some coaches on the hot seat, maybe even seats hotter than Hugh Freeze next year. Obviously, the coach at Florida State, who just brought on Gus Malzahn as his OC, his seat's going to be hot. I feel like
Malzahn, West Virginia, if they don't fire Neil Brown,
USC's head coach. I don't know what the score looks like for them right now.
Ryan Day.
Oh, they just lost. They just lost to Notre Dame. So yeah, USC. Your boy B. Your boy USC.
Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day. I've been telling y'all about them for years. Y'all already knew what was up.
Be. Like 0-4 versus Michigan should be a fireable offense.
At home that was against a 6-win Michigan team.
Oh my God. There are 4-year players at Ohio State that have never beaten Michigan, which you can't say much because there's a bunch of players. Well, there's Auburn at least has one guy that's beaten Alabama before on roster, and that's
a bad loss.
18th year player Luke Deal was on the 2019 roster.
I don't know if Ryan. I mean, I think Ohio State still gets into the playoff.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you gotta. If you're Ohio State coach, your job is determined by how many championships you win and how many times you beat Michigan.
If he has a strong showing in his playoffs,
he better win. He better make it all the way to the game, like to the championship game. Yeah.
Before Ryan Day got
even the semifinal.
Georgia Tech had beaten Georgia more recently than Michigan beat Ohio State before Ryan Day got there.
Yeah. Needless to say, Hugh Freeze will be amongst some of those names going into next year on the hot seat. I'm curious to see what type of team he's bringing into next year, 2025. And Auburn has to start. They have to start fast.
Can't lose any more 25. Can't lose any more 25 guys.
Yeah. Already lost one. Dice decommitted today. Signing day is what 3-4 days? 4 days?
Wednesday.
So is eager to see.
You never know.
Who he hangs on, who all hangs on. It's going to be a good class regardless. Top 10, maybe even top 5, depending on who Auburn can get. But yeah, a lot of work has to be done in the portal. I think that's the big thing that once Auburn gets his signing class signed, they're going to shift his attention to the portal. Guys leaving, guys they're bringing in. That's going to be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that first day is going to be scary for Auburn. The exit door is going to be the worst. The exit door.
Yeah. Big homie Lander says, if Hugh Freeze doesn't hire an offensive coordinator who he lets call plays, he will not make it to year 4, and we're back in full rebuild. Historians will refer to this as the lost decade of Auburn football.
Again, I'm not convinced that the problem is you call him calling plays. It's him calling plays for a guy who can't do what he wants to do. Everything is a backup plan out there. Everything is dumbed down. You heard them say we need to simplify it. That's coach speak for they can't do it, so we need to make it easier. And that means it's easier for defenses to defend it as well. He's got to get his guy in there. That's actually his guy that he wants, that can do what he wants to do, that can run the read option fluently, that can do it consistently, make the right read, make the correct throw, and make the throw accurately while in rhythm of the RPO. I'm not saying it's easy, but Peyton Thorne couldn't do it. And I thought you had enough evidence there to show that he couldn't, but he doubled down on him and it didn't go well. So I'm judging him for the choice. I'm not judging him for what you do when you've got a part that doesn't fit in a machine as complex as a good college offense. He's got to make it. He's got to get the pick right, though. Like, you got to get it doesn't matter if it's Walker White.
It still falls back on you.
It's on you. The whole thing is on you.
Yeah.
Whatever pride you had or money that didn't want to be spent on a portal QB last season, well, you see how that worked out, man. You better go and get a dude. Get a dude.
And look at again. You look at what a Cam. Could you imagine if Miami didn't have Cam Ward? How bad they
that
would
defense
be.
was awful. They would be 5-7. They would be 5-7 without Cam Ward. They ended up winning 10
That's
games.
how big of a difference he made for that team.
We'd be in the playoff if we had gotten Cam Ward.
Goodness gracious. Go get a QB. Just go get one. Now you can go get one.
Yeah.
Do not get Caden Salter. Do not get Caden Salter. Do not get Caden Salter.
I haven't watched the game of his. I heard he wasn't that good.
He got benched yesterday for being bad, not because of injury this time, not with like Castellanos. Okay. This time he was just being bad. He got benched.
Heavy comes back with the $5. Says, I saw the offensive play sheet when the camera zoomed in on Freeze. I'm pretty sure it was written in crayon.
Like when Mike Leach had his on a napkin.
Oh, goodness. RP Mike Leach. Travis Latham with the comment, been a member 20 months. Thank you, sir. He says, there's one player that touches the ball every offensive play, and he's straight garbage. Good riddance. # war damn Eagle. War Eagle to you, Travis.
War Eagle, man.
I understand. Anthony Grant says, am I just being crazy with my observations, or do you all agree that our offensive line has not been good for a long time? I think the offensive line has improved. Our offensive line was bad at one point. Really, really bad. I don't think it's great. I don't even know if I'd say it's middle of the SEC. It's improved enough for us to be able to have an offense.
Yeah.
But portal. Auburn's got some work to do in the portal when it comes to O-line. Like, they're still having to fix years. Like, this is years in the making with this offensive line. And I will have to give Hugh Freeze and staff credit for putting together a decent line given the circumstances. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, fifth in the Panthers have been sacked the fifth most in the SEC, but Lenore Sellers has been sacked more, and South Carolina is a borderline playoff team. You can win with a mediocre offensive line. I don't think that's going to be the key factor in Auburn. I think earlier in the year, it's definitely improved because Percy Lewis should have been kicked out of the starting lineup earlier than he was. Listen. He was giving up sacks left and right. I think you got a bunch of younger guys. DeAndre Carter, whenever he gets in next year, I think he's going to be really good. Saw a lot of good things out of Braden Joyner. Connor Liu, of course, is the dog. You just got to get left tackle figured out. And when you do that, I think this offensive line,
I agree,
could be looked at as one of the best-ish in the SEC.
Yeah,
we had issues left tackle, across the line in recent years. Now we're talking about we just need a tackle.
Yeah. Or
we need a right to, you know what I mean? Now we're talking about, I think that's a step up from where we are. Still, again, I'm not saying we got one of the better lines or even in the middle of the pack, but it's improved from where Auburn has traditionally been. B, you got thoughts, man?
Yeah, just we're one or two pieces away on the line. You go and get Percy Lewis again, evaluation. Maybe the two most important positions on the field, left tackle and quarterback on offense, right? Mm-hmm. Miss. You know, Dylan Wade stepped up from a group of 5 last season for us, and he was back in that spot this season. He's not. I don't think he is a ultimate left tackle. Like, you need somebody who's a bit bigger and can hold down that spot without help, and you got to find him. Like, there was too often when we had to pass for almost the entire season. You not doing run play action. We're getting like pressure is back there immediately, and that wasn't a knock on Thorne that we couldn't get those plays off. The knock on him was not recognizing a blitz and just no adjustments in the line. Right, but there were plenty of times where it was ball snapped, pressures on him, and he's going down. So, yes, the line was a problem. The left side of the line was a problem. Now, to y'all's point, you can have a mediocre or even bad offensive line and still do really good. We've seen that plenty of times when the guy is a dude. If you've got a dude,
sure,
having a bad line is not the end of the world. So they've got to find a dude at quarterback no matter what, I think they have to find a dude at quarterback because they're about to have to re-recruit a lot of offensive pieces here because of how bad the season went, I think. And on top of that, you have to bring them back with a question mark hanging over the quarterback position. How do you do it? How do you you gonna have time to find a left tackle in the portal while you re-recruiting Cam Coleman and Perry? I don't know. Are you? You got a lot to do. A lot of moves to make.
You also got to recruit DJ Durkin and an entire defensive staff.
Yeah, you do.
To your point about having a dude at O-line, Florida, 2020 Florida in the SEC championship, they did not have a good line, but they had Kyle Trask.
He was slinging it,
and he was a gunslinger.
Yep.
And so he covered a multitude of sins across that Florida line. To your point, B.
Yeah.
When you have a QB who's thinking, not processing the game fast enough, yes, it will expose the issues in your offensive line. You almost have to have a near perfect line. But we saw it with Bama. They had a bad line for a few years, but they had a Heisman contending QB who covered their multitude of sins across there. I mean, if you got a dude back there, it helps.
Yep.
But if both aren't good and up to par, your offense is a mess. And that's a lot of where Auburn has been, even though I think Auburn has made strides along the offensive line. They're a couple of guys away from really being a good offensive line.
Yeah, I agree.
Robert says 4 straight losing seasons equals culture of the program is in serious danger of becoming irreconcilable, regardless of head coach and player roster, i.e. Nebraska.
Well, I don't think the program is in danger of becoming that because if you make a change at coach and it's the right change, there is some success, then everything kind of flips back around really quickly. We got Gus in here after going 3-9, a great first year, a competitive second year, and the vibes were really high after those first 2 years. Like we weren't down on this program. We were like, oh yeah, we're back. And losing seasons do take the juice out of your program because now fans go, all right, I'm buying in again. I'm chipping into the NIL again. I'm buying season tickets again. I'm buying merch again. I've got my heart broken and my wallet squeezed every time I do this. Am I going to do this again for what? When you start to expect, I was at work and we were talking about like, wow, are they last week at Texas A&M? Are they rushing the field for beating the number 15 team in the nation? And then we started counting like, wait a minute. These kids haven't seen success. No wonder they don't have this expectation that we will win a big one. We didn't rush the field. Like, yeah, 2013 Iron Bowl felt incredible. You go from 3-9 to beating your rival and going to the SEC championship game. That's amazing. This season, we got our 5th win. And they rushed the field for our 5th win against a team that wasn't even an elite team. But I had to remember, man, they haven't seen the Auburn of old. Like, it's a foreign concept. This was the biggest win they probably had. And if you're a senior at Auburn right now, last week was the biggest win you've had your whole college career. Maybe there is something to the vibes being that bad. Because I didn't realize until I was like, man, that's kind of bad. They felt the need. They felt like, I need to capture this moment. I would have just drank another drink. Oh, good. Finally, we only won one. Great. But they needed to rush the field. So I think the right coach can change it, though. If you get a coach in here who immediately shows some progress, even if you don't do a lot of winning, but you see some progress, then I think it starts to turn around. You don't have to become a program that just assumes the worst happens, and then everything is just bad. I don't think we're ever going to be that kind of program. And I don't think 2 coaches having bad tenures makes that happen.
If you're right about QBB, it could be a situation like Tennessee. Stephen Riley mentions, look at how Tennessee was before Josh Heupel. You remember there was a year in there in the Heupel era where he got the wrong QB.
Yeah.
And Tennessee couldn't get over the hump, it seemed. It seemed like there are times were just kind of, But when you get the right QB, again, this upcoming portal window is going to be really important for this program and for Hugh Free's future here at Auburn.
It is. This is it.
I think I do not disagree at all, B, but he's got to get the right guy.
He's got to get it right.
Your room for error is razor thin at this point. Your
Yeah, it's
seat
over.
is bubbling hot.
Yep.
Teresa Super Chat says, "Isn't that the closest in Tuscaloosa in a long time?"
Yeah. Since 2014.
Yeah.
2014. We lost by 11 that year. So
Yeah.
yes, this is the closest I think since then.
Yeah.
And I think what's disappointing about this one, and I mentioned it earlier, is I think that with Nick Saban gone, it was almost like a foregone conclusion when he was here. Like, man, this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be a tough game in Tuscaloosa. And you just felt like, this is going to be a little different. I think a lot of people felt that way.
Yeah.
But again, you can't. And Auburn had his opportunities for it to be close, but was unable to take advantage of those opportunities. But yes, this has been the closest 2 scores, 14 points in a long time. Yeah. Brad Browning says, when it's new QB with same result, what's the excuse?
Then it's the coach. Then you can start making some definitive statements about what his offense can or can't do. But he's at least going to have that in his back pocket, right? Oh, we'll just wait till Coleman year 2. Wait till Thompson year 2. Well, really it's going to be his year 1 with how much he played. Wait till those guys get all these snaps and this new guy, he's actually good and great. That's going to be what holds him over for year 3, I think.
Well, we have an idea of that when he gets a QB.
It's going to be about, what did it take for us to finally start looking like something this year? About 5-6 games in? And I don't even think that's a bad thing. I saw the game day breakdown of talking about Notre Dame and Riley Leonard over there. Remember, we were clamoring for him a little bit. Early on, they looked bad. They lost to, who did they lose to? Somebody they had no business losing to early in the season.
They almost lost to A&M.
Yeah.
They lost to Northern Illinois, something like that.
Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
The last, 6 weeks, though, on fire. It does take some time for that first marriage with a new QB in the offensive staff, offensive weapons to coalesce. So, yes, it would take some time, but you've got a lot around him to make him comfortable quickly. So you'd hope that the talent you have here that's been gestating this year during a very rough season is able to help the QB get over the hump until the QB joins the party, and then you really got something cooking. Like Sellers. Sellers he always had the scrambling ability, but South Carolina started closing some of the games that they should have won early in the season. I would like South Carolina to play Bama again. South Carolina wins that game if they play with Lenore Sellers having 12 games of experience under his belt. They absolutely do. And they lost to somebody like who? They lost to a bad team early in the year. Who was it?
South Carolina?
Yeah.
I know they almost lost someone like week 1.
It took some time. But
they lost to LSU and should have beat them.
They lost to Ole Miss and Alabama are their 3 losses.
Okay, those are the 3.
But they beat Old Dominion 23-19 in week 1.
That's what it was. They almost lost to Old Dominion. Yeah. So yes, it takes time. It takes time. It absolutely takes time. I don't think even if you got a stud quarterback, it wouldn't be we're blowing people out from game 1 all the way to the end of the season. That wouldn't be the case. You wouldn't know what you got about week 5 or 6 when the quarterback has had some time. But you got to get the right dude. And we don't know if you can do that.
Remains to be seen. Mr. Gibson says, name one high school QB Freeze has developed. I can't name one, Mr. Gibson, because I don't think he has. He's mostly have inherited QBs or has worked with transfer QBs.
You got me. You win. I can't name him.
There's not one. Which, in a way, depending on what shakes out with high school recruiting QB-wise, if we get Deuce, if Auburn gets Deuce, that's great. But if not, Hugh's not working with a kid out of high school just yet, unless he gets things turned around offensively. He's working with transfer QBs until he gets things turned around. Case in point, the first 2 years and who he brings in now. He needs someone with experience. He prioritizes experience. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in the portal. But to his point, no. He has not developed a QB out of high school in all of his career in college football coaching. Rick Kazanave says, where is the evidence of Freeze, the QB whisperer? No clear heir to the starting QB, with Peyton Thorne setting a bar that mini-me could vault. Hey, we're mediocre now versus crappy. Continuous improvement. Yeah. Yeah. Followed by poop emojis.
Poop emojis.
Yeah.
Can't dispute you.
I don't have much. Not at Auburn. I don't. I don't have much evidence of that,
There's
Rick.
no evidence.
Appreciate the super chat.
Chad Kelly and Malik Willis in a way.
Malik Willis wasn't. Neither of them were his. Malik Willis
Well,
came from.
he had a year with Malik Willis behind the scenes, and then he got him to emerge
did.
at Liberty.
That was a good. I mean, that was an impressive job of his at Liberty with Malik Willis. Chad was a promising QB star who got in trouble at Clemson, got kicked off their team. He inherited him at Ole Miss. We already knew what Chad was.
Yeah, Chad was that dude. He was like a 5-star super prospect at
Right.
Clemson. He was just a knucklehead too, so he fell in Hugh's lap. Yeah.
Bo Wallace was.
He was better after Hugh got there.
Yeah.
He was just okay.
He was okay. He was up and down.
He never had a shot with Teamu, I don't think. That might have
that's
been
the
the
year
year
he got
after.
kicked out,
Yeah.
Yeah. But at Auburn, no, we have not seen evidence of him as the.
My brain doesn't go to any Arkansas. I can't name a single Arkansas State quarterback whenever he was there.
I can't.
He was only there at what? He was there
A
2
year?
years.
2
He was there 2 years.
He was there
2 or
too?
3 years because he was an offensive coordinator 1 year, and then he was the head coach. He got promoted to head coach after their head coach left, and I can't think of the chat.
Was he the OC whenever Gus was there?
So
Was
now
he Gus's OC?
Because Gus was the head coach.
no, Gus came after Hugh left to go to the Ole Miss.
And then Harston came in after Gus.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct. Ryan Applin. Thanks, Lawrence Robinson. It was
And
Ryan Applin
and Butch Jones is the coach now, which means he's in line for the Auburn coaching job.
Nice.
Yeah, it's true. We like Arkansas State head coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's go to Mr. Gibson says, why not go JUCO over the portal?
I don't know what's in the JUCO ranks these days.
I don't know. Yeah. I
I
can tell
have no idea.
And you got Pavia. About how many Pavias do you have in that pool?
Right.
JUCO, Pavia was JUCO?
He was JUCO before he went to New Mexico State. That's why he sued the NCAA, because he sued the NCAA because he thinks that he said JUCO stole some years of eligibility from him. And so he wants to play one more time to beat Auburn again, or he frees again.
Why not? Mr. Gibson says Free said all off season he had the QB he wanted. He did
Coach speak.
Say that. He did say that.
Coach speak.
Yeah, it was Cap. TJ Lou says a good QB would have made that O-line look more competent.
Would have.
Yeah.
Hank Brown never got sacked.
Hank Brown was slinging that thing 1, 2, 3 out. It don't matter who is going to. He's going to somebody. Hank might just need a little seasoning, man. But I have a feeling we'll never know what Hank could have been.
Yeah.
He's got experience.
Yeah. Nice having Hank here at Auburn. I'd be surprised he hangs around.
Yeah.
Big Homie Lander says, I went to school during the Malzahn years, and I thought that was frustrating. I cannot imagine being a senior student and never experienced a winning season. That is unfortunate. I don't even know what that's like. We actually were there for some glory years. Like we didn't experience a national championship like some students were fortunate to when Chiswick was there, but we experienced an undefeated season. We had some years that was kind of but we were beating Bama when we was in school. So there was some success there. I couldn't imagine what these kids are going through now.
I had the last 3 years of Malzahn and then the first year of Harsin.
Yeah.
I got to see Auburn beat Bama once.
19?
Yep.
Okay.
There you go. That was a good
During-
game too.
and I
That
was
was a good game.
arguing with everybody because after that season, it was bench Bo, let TJ throw,
Mhm.
which I thought was stupid. And and then everybody, 2018 was like, "That's bench Jarrett Stidham from Malik Willis." I was like, "Why would you?" I had a lot of arguments
That was a
in those
rough
2
year.
years.
That was a rough year.
Yeah, it
2018,
was.
That was rough.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. All right, gentlemen, we're about to get out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us on this show. Guys, do the necessary. If you're feeling stressed, hit up the Rogue Shop. Use code Rapport. Get your stress relieved. Shouts out to them for being a sponsor of the show. Definitely wanted to shout them out. It was stressful. Listen, if you need some joy in your life, hit up tryjoymode.com. Use code Rapport for 20% off free shipping. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Y'all know what to do before you get out of here. First thing you can do is share this video. Smash that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can hit us up on XIG at The War Report. We are TW Report on TikTok. Signing off. We will be back tomorrow for the weekend tailgate. Dylan, when are y'all going live? When are you going live again, sir?
We'll be going live tomorrow at 6 p.m. CST, talking about this game and talking about some of the things Hugh Freeze said in his press conference, because I just got a little tidbit about one of his things he said.
Nice. Nice. I bet it was amazing.
It was about the Jarquez Hunter pass.
Well, I'm pretty sure we will be talking about it as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. Try to enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.